So, recording is in progress, and welcome to Astro West Underground. I'm always very excited to do this, and I love interviewing people more than I like teaching, or as much as I like teaching. So, we're here tonight to learn a lot about Reiki, and Abby can turn her camera on and unmute because I'm going to pin her. And there she is with
Hi.
all of her beautiful glory. Hi. So happy to have you here, and I'm very excited about what we're doing together. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been practicing? What does it mean to you? And blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'm so happy to be here tonight with everybody. I've been practicing since 2012, I think, or before. um,
So,
I'm nervous. Okay.
oh, come
Anyway,
on. We're all
I've been
nervous.
practicing. I've been practicing Reiki for a good solid 12 years at this point, so probably before 2012. I got into it because my daughter was ill with anxiety and things like that. She was quite young and being bullied at school, and I didn't know how to help her, and I didn't know what to do. There was like a lot of physical things going on because of the anxiety. But it wasn't, I didn't have words for it. And I was searching and searching and searching for things. And a friend said, "Hey, why don't you try Reiki?" So I was like, "Oh, okay. What's that? Do I go in and it happens to me?" And he was like, "No, no. Just go and learn. Go learn how to do Reiki. Go get attuned. It'll help." I said,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay."
So
And
an attunement is like an initial training. Is that
yeah, a training, because I knew that Reiki was a massage thing. I had, but it was like a not a massage, but it was massage, not a massage. I knew
mas-
that. I had totally,
massage-ish?
it was massage-ish. It was like lumped into massage, but it was a massage. So you could go and, go to like a place that would have massages and they might offer Reiki. That might be on the menu. So I didn't really think of that as like, how would that help my daughter? It didn't
Mhm.
connect for me initially. But I did remember that I had actually had Reiki. I had actually gone to a place where they give massages and was going through like kind of a critical time for myself. I was quite young, actually. I was only 25 at the time, but I was getting divorced. And I went, looked at the menu and I was like, "Oh, Reiki, what's that? I'll try it. Okay, I'll do that. I'll have that. I don't know what that is." And then I was like kind of shocked that, I was in there for a massage and there was no massage. But it was actually very moving. And even at the time, I felt that it was, I knew I had had an experience. It wasn't the
Mhm.
experience that I was kind of looking for in that moment, but I knew I'd had an experience and I never, felt bad about it, but I just kind of forgot about it. And it was just an experience that I had had. And then, but when I went to go get trained in Reiki, like more than a decade later, um,
It takes a minute. Yeah.
No, I knew it was more than a decade. When I went to get trained in it, I had a whole different experience of it, and I was very lucky because my teacher was a Japanese woman, and I did all the levels from Reiki 1 up to master teacher with her. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I did with her. And she was very interesting. She had an interesting approach to it. It wasn't an American approach to Reiki, it was a Japanese
Mhm.
approach to Reiki, even though it
Mhm.
was Western Reiki. It was like the Usai through Hawaii, that's how,
Mhm.
and back into Japan. So that's
Are
that's
there
the
many, are
lineage
there
that she came through.
Uh, Are there many different traditions of Reiki? Because I know in a lot of training, a lot of different trainings, like in craniosacral, there's all different disciplines. And I was just wondering, is that the same in Reiki? Do you have a choice of which discipline you want to follow?
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's branched off into a lot of different places too.
Hmm.
Usai, interestingly, only practiced Reiki as Reiki for about 5 years, and then he died.
Oh,
He had
wow.
like this epiphany on the mountaintop. He had kind of
Mhm.
like basically wandered around. It wasn't the desert, but it was his own version of the desert for his whole life, trying so many things and having so many failures and things just not sticking for him in his life. And he went to go like study at a Buddhist monastery, and at some point he went up on a mountaintop and he meditated for 21 days. And at the
Wow.
yeah, and at that time he felt like this great light.
Mhm.
Like it hit him like a bolt of lightning, basically. And he after that he had this intense experience, and he knew that he knew that there was, that something had changed for him. So he came down from the mountaintop and he went through a whole process of kind of like, understanding what is this thing. He had an experience where he tripped on his way down the mountain and he put his hands on his ankle, I think it was, or his foot, because he tripped and hurt himself, and he healed himself.
Wow.
He had a
So,
he was like Amma. I don't know if you guys know who Amma is, the hug lady, but he had things,
mhm.
he
Kind of
had
like a
things.
healing touch. So what are the mechanics of it? Like what's under the hood? I know that it has to do with energy, and then the Reiki practitioner is channeling energy through themselves into their recipient. So how exactly does that work? I mean, that's a very simplistic
Yeah, I
perspective.
mean, for all the lineages, no matter what Reiki, whether you're, because what happened in Japan is that after he died, there was the Japanese branch that stayed in Japan and actually kind of died
Mhm.
out. It didn't entirely die out, but it kind of disappeared. So people kind of
Mhm.
forgot about it. And one of the people that he had attuned, that person treated somebody who was living in Hawaii. She was a Japanese woman, but she lived in Hawaii, and she had come to Japan for a treatment. And it was so powerful. She became his student, and she learned, and then she went to Hawaii and practiced in Hawaii, and she started the whole Western lineage that has gone all around the world and branched off into
Wow.
many different branches,
Hmm.
and came back into Japan. Yeah. So, oh, I'm sorry. I
So
went back to the
yeah,
one question,
that's
and then, yeah.
that's okay. So pretty much when you as the experience as a practitioner, when you're working on somebody, you connect to energy at large. I mean, how does this, what's your experience as a practitioner?
Well, what Reiki is like universal light energy, and that's what you're
Hmm.
connecting with. So it's not your energy. You literally connect to the energy of the universe. However you
Hmm.
want to think of it, as this giant like web of light and energy, this huge field. However, whatever words you want to put into that, like this, I
Hmm.
think of it as just like this ginormous kind of web or net that like spreads all out throughout the universe, and you tap into that. um so it's like this huge like grid almost, but it's
Okay.
but it's beautiful. It's not like an ugly kind of mathematical thing, but yeah, you tap into this grid, to this universal energy source of light, and you
Hmm.
channel it on your behalf, on the behalf of yourself or your client. um
Okay.
you can do it for a room, you can do it for a pet, you can do it for plants, you can do it for your food, you can do it for lots of different things. And
And what does
and
it feel like? What does it feel like to you when you connect with the grid and have it coming through you? Do you get a physical sensation?
yeah, I do. I feel ease. I feel greater sense of ease. I feel
Hmm.
spaciousness. I
Hmm.
feel I feel energized, and sometimes I feel more relaxed. So it just depends on kind of also
Hmm.
what I'm looking for. Sometimes I'm consciously channeling it, and sometimes I just walk into it.
Happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm having a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody and I'm like, oh, I'm channeling now. And that's a different thing from like,
Mhm.
oh, I can't sleep tonight and I give myself Reiki. And
Mhm.
so you have different, it suits different things at different times for different
So,
purposes.
so you can use it on yourself as well as other people and things like that. Now,
Yeah,
for
that's
the
where you
longest time,
start. You start with yourself. You learn how to channel. So
okay.
basically, you think about the
Mhm.
part of the training process is just learning how to like grow your own field, but also grow
Mhm.
your capacity to access the field, and also to
Okay.
just do it on behalf of, instead of instead of it being about you, you do it on behalf of, and that's
Okay.
the
That's
channel, and you
beautiful.
work on growing that channel.
So you're
Yeah.
basically submitting to a very strong universal energy, completely
Or
transcending
surrendering.
ego, and you're doing it on behalf of somebody else. Now, it's been around for a while, as you already said, and for the longest time, people called it a pseudoscience at their kindest. There were all kinds of pejoratives that were being bandied around about it, but in the past 15 years, it's been being taken very seriously. It is administered in hospitals. I know people that do it in hospitals. I know that I think some people said that their insurance would even cover it, which I guess it depends on your policy. But I do know somebody personally. I have I have an out of town office that I practice in as well. And the person that I sort of inherited that from was a craniosacral therapist, but she also performed Reiki. And she was also a veteran. And she got called to Baden, Germany to administer Reiki on the injured soldiers that were coming back from the first Gulf War. So it's being taken seriously. And I do have to say, even with the modalities that I practice at large, a lot of people like to poke fun at anything that is metaphysical. But some of us, like Abbey and myself, I mean, we're determined to put physics back into metaphysics and psychology back into parapsychology and normal back into paranormal, for God's sake, because quantum science has taught us that subatomic particles, which do exist between each of our cells, are subject to perception. They respond to perception. And a good example of that, I have a couple. I'll start with the most grim. Many of us have known someone that lost a long-term partner and said, "Oh my God, I can't live without them." And 3 months later, where are they? They're gone. Uh, in my own life, I was ridiculously sick. I had more than one resuscitation, and I just refused to go. And my doctor doesn't even know how I made it through. But it's all about perception. So when you couple that with universal energy at large that is so powerful and so primal, that same spark that exists within each of our bodies. Okay, so you have to perceive yourself as two things. You're the spark of vitality, and then you're this body that has a shelf life and linear time. And we can all agree that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So when the body dies, where does it go? Probably back to the source. Any number of, places that we want to imagine. I don't know anybody who knows for sure, came back and validated that. But we're allowed to choose beliefs that make sense to us. So if you want to bring, which I am very skeptical for a tarot reader and a psychic medium, I'm really, really skeptical. And I'm constantly challenging my work, and I'm getting validation that is completely backed up by my clients. And I'm sure that you've probably had, Abby, your share of skeptics come, "Yeah, I'll give Reiki a try. Let's see if it does anything." And then the next thing you know, they're feeling terrific.
The great thing about Reiki is you don't have to believe in anything. It's not about believing in a single thing. It
Yeah.
There's nothing you have to subscribe. It's so simple. That's what's so great about it. What's so brilliant about it is
Mhm.
that it's so simple. You connect to this energy field. Um, and you're already connected to it in a way, but
Mhm.
when you go through a training and when you get attuned, it's a different thing. It's a different approach. It's a different
Mhm.
it's harder to talk about, but it is actually a very tangible thing. And
Mhm.
once you grow the capacity, and some people have it, just the way some people can naturally sing beautifully and other people learn to sing and they can learn to sing beautifully. Or there was
Mhm.
that famous musician who was, everyone knew him as brilliant, but as a child they had told him, "Oh, you don't play. You don't have it. You don't have it. Go away." And he said, "No, I want to learn." And he learned. And he's one, I can't remember who it is. Unfortunately, it'll come to me when this is over, but he
Mhm.
was, I mean, he's one of the greats. And it
Yeah.
didn't come to him naturally. So, it's all a matter of focus. And actually, Reiki is
Yeah.
entirely about focus in so many
Yeah.
ways. And it's a wonderful experience to receive passively. It's a wonderful experience to channel it. It's a wonderful experience to share it. And the great thing about it, not only do you not have to believe in it, you don't even have to remember it. There's nothing to remember. Once you learn it, you know it. And even if you
Right.
forget, you know it. You know it.
It'll
And
come back to you. Yeah.
it comes back to you. Yeah, it comes back to you the way it comes back to you. And a
Mhm.
lot of times you'll be meeting somebody who's really wonderful and you're like, God, I just really connect with you and I'm really enjoying you. And so many times you'll find out that they're also attuned as well. And half the time they'll say,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I got attuned like 10 years ago and I totally forgot about it. But I got attuned, but they're still doing it. They're still carrying it.
Mhm.
So it's absolutely brilliant. And obviously there are people who really take the time and energy and really develop themselves, and they
Mhm.
take it to a whole nother level too. So
Mhm.
people use it in
So,
different ways.
would you consider it a healing art?
Oh, absolutely. I
Mhm.
consider it an energy art, and all energy work is healing work for
Mhm.
sure,
Okay.
in all the different ways
So,
that it can be.
you can bring relief emotionally, spiritually. What about physically? Like if I said, "Hey, my wrist is
Oh,
like really, yeah, really."
yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because like the people, you can have so many different sensations. For example, when you're channeling Reiki, you might bring a genuine warmth to the skin.
Mhm.
People often have a sensation of tremendous heat sometimes, but very enjoyable. So things like that can be very, very relieving to, physical ailments, to have that kind of light channeled in that direct way. It brings heat, so you know
Mhm.
it's there, but it's not just about the heat.
Mhm.
And you can just find things moving. So maybe you don't feel heat,
Mhm.
or you might feel tingling, or maybe you don't think you
Mhm.
feel anything, but you just feel a sense of relief. Maybe
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even cry. Sometimes people will cry, or something will come to them. They'll have a memory, or they'll
Bringing
just
all of that trauma up to the surface. Yeah.
Sure, or they'll just feel really, really relaxed, or they'll just feel really tired. You can walk away from a session really energized or really tired. It's really dependent on what's going on for you, and like
Right.
how
What you
much
need. Yeah.
what you need, and
Mhm.
also what you released, or what you took in,
Mhm.
or how depleted you were. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of times our energy reserves are pretty depleted because we're not really taught how to contain ourselves, and I don't mean contain ourselves, I mean contain our energy. When I say
Mhm.
contain ourselves, I mean like to think of ourselves as a container, and to hold it, and to release it, and to just understand the mechanics of it, you know to
Okay.
generate it.
Um,
Yeah.
now what about like psychic stuff? I've heard, oh, is Reiki the kind of thing where you can like channel somebody and like hook me up with my dead grandmother or something like that? Because, there's so many people have so much to say and they really don't know what they're talking about. And I was just wondering from your perspective, I'm sure that there are Reiki masters who bring a lot of that in, that really focus on a lot of that. But what struck me about you when we first met is that you don't. You're
No,
completely immersed in the art. So can you
I don't.
explain
I'm
why
I'm
that?
not a new ager at all. I actually went to like an alternative college on the West Coast, and that cured me 100% in the late 80s, early 90s, and that 100% cured me of New Ageism. It put a dead stop to
Yeah.
it.
So, so you
But
don't incorporate that into your sessions.
you know what?
So,
I did a second master teacher training. I actually did two master teacher trainings, and the second one
uh
I did it for the lineage, because this person is a well-known, and she's like one of those nurse Reiki people who goes around
mhm.
in hospitals and
Okay.
has all these studies about everything, all the efficacy, everything that you were just talking about. Um,
Mhm.
and she's really into that, and she's amazing. She was trained in the 70s, back when people were spending $10,000, for a Reiki one attunement. People would spend that kind of money for an attunement at that time in 1970s dollars. So that was quite a lot of money that they were putting out for that.
Wow.
She had a very good lineage. She was only 5 degrees from Musai. So
Mhm.
I kind of did the training for the lineage, But I also did the training because I knew she had a lot of interesting information. She'd been doing it for a really long time. And it was very much an American training. There was, I mean, I did all my trainings with this wonderful woman, Lumi Eno, and it was all, meditation and, Japanese practices like Hatsureho and Kenyoko and all these kinds of things. A lot of meditation and like energy generating exercises and stuff like that. And then I go to Barbara's, and she's so amazing. And it was like journaling, and everyone's talking about spirit guides. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Check, please.
Spirit animals. But there was so much value in that one too, even though I hate journaling, and you'll never be asked to journal in anything I lead ever. I think it's great to have spaces that are nonverbal, like where you don't need words. And Reiki is one of those places that it doesn't require words, and words fail Reiki all the time because it is very hard to find the right words for Reiki.
So Anthony Russell is going to make an appointment for a Reiki session with you.
Okay.
What can I expect? So I walk in, you put me in your room, you get me on your table, then what?
Okay, so you're fully clothed. You're wearing something comfortable that you might wear to meditate or do yoga, or loose fitting, comfortable clothing. It's passive. You're going to lie down on a table or a bed, as some people call those massage beds, massage tables. It can be done anywhere. You're not required to be in a massage room setting, but usually, I try to make a nice space in that way. And you lie down, and it's passive. You just close your eyes, and you just are there to receive. And what you would feel during your hour treatment is any number of things, depending on where you're at and what you're receptive to. I put a lot of focus. I have a conversation with you before we talk about things. I don't promise that any of those things will be resolved. It's more like if you've ever been to a meeting and they put things on the wall, it's kind of like an energetic putting things on the wall. It's like it's in the room. So whatever on your mind, or what you'd like to be addressed, or even I respect people's privacy. So maybe there are things that you wouldn't tell to anybody, or maybe there are things you don't even know that you really want to address. So I always leave space for that, space for people to express their needs or their desires or their wants without even having to communicate it to me. And if there's even space for your subconscious to come in, play, for all the things you don't even allow yourself to know. And
so no one has to ask you, no one has to tell you anything. I'm here because I'm having a crummy day and I don't know what's going on, or I'm here because my leg hurts, or there's none of that. I just realized that my mic went out, my batteries went out, so that I can get this thing off of me.
Oh no, they're 100%. I'm 100% there, and I'm listening, and I'm actually also a trained mediator, so I have a lot of listening experience in that way too. But I'm not here to help you resolve a conflict in this setting. But I still use those skills.
Maybe a conflict with yourself,
No, but the point is that there's space to have a conversation before. We'll sit and have a little talk, what's going on, and they just kind of put things out there, whatever they want to put out there. But I also leave space for people to have privacy and to not have to say anything, or you talk about this, that, and the other, but then there's also space for all the unspoken things, and they're unspoken either consciously or unconsciously. That's okay. I mean, even though we don't do psychic work, the unspoken and the unseen has a place always. I mean, there's always a place for that. And they, just as they make their place everywhere, whether we want them to or not, all the unspoken things, and however you want to talk about it.
It's got to, so you're basically honoring everything. It's like you're working at an energetic level where you basically transcend being human almost. And the energy that you're bringing in and applying, and you probably know instinctively.
You don't even apply it. It's just for you're just doing something on that behalf of someone else, and you're
Hmm.
directing it maybe, but you're,
Hmm.
and you direct it um to into the room and to your client in various ways and means,
Yeah.
but it's not like applying. I wouldn't use that word. I mean, I understand why someone might say applying, but I'd probably phrase it
Mhm.
differently. Yeah.
And say I fell in love with Reiki and I wanted an attunement.
Uh,
What's that experience like?
Well, I do a
Because you do that
primarily
as well.
meditation-based
Hmm.
attunement
Hmm.
process.
Hmm.
Um, and we'll start out and we'll do like some energy, we'll do some energy generating work, we'll do some games,
Hmm.
we'll have some meditations, and we'll do some there's attunement ceremonies, and they aren't just like fake ceremonies. You really are bringing,
Hmm.
it's all about the channel, and the attunement
Hmm.
ceremonies are about the channel, and you have to do 4 of them in the process of a single attunement.
Wow.
So I used to try to do attunements broken up. I mean, broken up into many times, like you can,
Hmm.
or and I can also do it all at once, but I do think that like 4 at once is like a lot in one day. So, and I do
Hmm.
think that I recently came to the idea that it is good to have all 4. So I think that is
Hmm.
important. So,
Yeah. Now, I read in your bio that subsequent attunements are at your invitation, at the invitation of the Reiki master.
well, yeah, there's 2 different kinds of things. One
Okay.
is like a booster at whatever level you're
Hmm.
at. So you can just
Hmm.
come and like have, and you can like, you would have a session, you'd say, oh, I'd like
Hmm.
to, but my session, I'd like an attunement, like a booster attunement. I'm already attuned.
Hmm.
And I could do
Hmm.
that as a booster, which is great. I mean,
Hmm.
it's nice, especially for people who've been already attuned, but maybe they've kind of forgot and they want kind of a refreshment. But then there's
Hmm.
also like subsequent levels. So you're at
Hmm.
Reiki 1 and you want to go to Reiki 2, Reiki 3, Reiki 4.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you would need to
So
be.
now I.
I don't attune like back to back. Like I don't even
Mhm.
think it's good to do one attunement, like one full attunement in one day. I think that that's like too much for people. I really do
Mhm.
think that energy and taking energy in and learning how to hold it and contain it and channel it and direct
Mhm.
it um, is an art, and it's worth taking the
Mhm.
time to really ingest and to understand the
Absolutely.
properties of it. Like if you were drawing and you were learning how to draw something, you'd want to take that charcoal or that pencil and really understand how it works. Like, how can I make
Mhm.
all these marks with this charcoal? How can I use this brush? What can happen? You need to
Yeah. How can
understand
I
the process.
manipulate it after? Yeah, yeah. So it's really basically building a very strong and multifaceted foundation, and then you just sort of, the person who's being attuned takes it upon themselves to apply themselves and learn. And I guess like every other art, you develop your own spin, which is sort of maybe a little removed from the traditional foundation method. Do you set an intention before you, because I always set an intention before every session. My intention is to serve this person, blah, 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 you know, and it's not the same
Yeah,
every time.
that's definitely part of it. I mean, you're always
Uh-huh.
like in a traditional sense, you're always like part of your setting the space is to bring the
Hmm.
lineage, the Japanese lineage, into the room with you. So from
Hmm.
Musai through everybody up into you, your
Yeah.
Musai, his student, that person's student until you get to yourself. So you are supposed
Oh,
to
wow.
remember the lineage.
Honor the lineage. Yeah.
Yeah, honor the lineage. And then part of that is also setting an intention for the best of your
Hmm.
client. Like I want to,
Hmm.
I'm channeling Reiki for my client right now. So that's always my intention at the very basic
Hmm.
and broadest sense. They're setting that's what the conversation is for them, is that's
Yeah.
setting their intention, because it is an agreement. It's a pact between their
Hmm.
subconscious, and you're channeling Reiki, and their consciousness and their
Hmm.
subconsciousness. It's about that agreement. Like the, they are tacitly agreeing, yes, I want a session. And then there's also like all the unspoken parts of them, which may or may
Hmm.
not be fully available to the session as well. And that's okay too. That's fine. So it's
I
all.
want one right now. After listening to you, I want one right now. If anybody is interested in booking a session, with Abbey. You can go to awunderground.com, click on her picture, and you get a little pop-up screen that says arrange an appointment. And she has 2 services that she's offering there. A full Reiki healing session and also an attunement. But I'm hoping that some people in the audience might have some questions for you. Are you up for fielding some questions if anybody
Mhm,
does? All right,
mhm.
everybody, this is your big shot. Okay, I'm gonna unpin myself and then Hannah, can I pin you? Okay, cool. Remove pin. It's such a disappointment. Pinned. Okay. Oh no, wrong person. Wait, hold on. Sorry. This is gonna be real cute on YouTube. Okay. There. Hi, Hannah.
Hi. Thank you guys so much, Abby. I think you're fabulous. I'm really excited to have you a part of the Astro family. I don't know. I hope it's okay to say that I work at Astro too. But I have a question. I heard that Reiki always is flowing through you, like that once you're activated, you're always activated, and that the energy like never stops. And is that true? Because like I wanted to get attuned a long time ago, and I had someone I was close with afraid of me getting attuned because like it was a whole thing. Like he was very religious and like afraid of me like touching him after that. It was kind of
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that happened for
it
you.
was it was a whole thing, but I was just curious because, like, I think that would be really cool if that were the case, that it was always flowing through you and it never stopped, and I was wondering if that were true.
It's absolutely true. That's the thing, is that you can even forget that you were attuned, and people do, because they do it and they have it for a while, and then they just go off and do other things, and they're not really actively practicing Reiki anymore. However, it's still very present for them, and it's still very available to them. And that's what's so great about it. Is sometimes I have a friend, and I adore this person, and she's totally cynical, and she's like, oh, Reiki, whatever. But as soon as she sits down next to me, I start channeling, and I really start channeling. So she's saying no, but energetically, she wants energy. She wants it, and I just start channeling on her behalf, and it's really great because there's no vampirism with Reiki, and
Yeah.
actually it's a great protection from it, because you know that you are a fountain, and you are always flowing. You do have to it's good for you to have like energy boundaries for yourself for a lot of different reasons, and Reiki isn't really about that. And you don't really worry about cultivating those barriers, because Reiki is about giving and sharing.
Mhm.
And you protect yourself in a sense by giving and sharing, but it's also, it's just an interesting, there's a lot of balancing in there, that you start to become, as you become more aware of the energy and more aware of how it's flowing with you. And there's just a lot of nuances in there, things to play with, things to be, things that you become aware of. Yeah, but that's a shame about your friend, because like,
Yeah.
you're very religious, like Jesus, his whole thing was light. I feel like he was like an original Reiki master without calling it
Yeah,
Reiki.
he was raising people from the dead. I
Yeah, he
mean,
was
in hand
also like the
healing.
light
So
guy. He was like
yeah,
channeling
so
light,
I
you know.
know. Yeah, it was really
Hannah,
close.
I'm glad you're referring to him in the past tense. This
Yeah,
person.
I mean, yeah, you know of this one, but
I may or may not, but that's neither here nor there. It's just we do encounter people in our lives that try to block our way.
yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that, but he was probably afraid of how brightly you shine. Okay, I'm gonna unpin you, unless you have another part of your question.
That was my whole question, but thank you so much.
Okay,
This is awesome.
But
thank
one
you.
more thing on that, like, no, Reiki is the most unthreatening thing in the world. And any religion that you go to, they're mentioning some kind of thing about light and about
Hmm.
energy. And so if you meet somebody and they're having that kind of commentary to you, you can always reflect it back in that way, in a way that, oh no, Reiki isn't like some kind of crazy witchcraft. It just enhances. It's like the MSG of energy. It just makes everything taste better. I mean, or, you know, it's the umami of energy. It just, I don't know, is that, maybe that's a silly way of looking at it, but
No.
it just enhances everything.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we have a great question in chat. It says, in your experience, is any spiritual development or enlightenment that accompanies diligent, is there, I guess, is there any spiritual development or enlightenment that accompanies diligent Reiki practice? I received my first attunement and I feel overwhelmingly positive and peaceful. I'm wondering if that will lead to some kind of insight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all like you. It's all it's all where you take it. It's just that sense of ease, that sense of refreshment, that sense of generosity that comes from that. That's all spiritual. That's all on that path, right? So I don't know what enlightenment. I feel like enlightenment can mean so many things to so many different people. So I don't want to, you know, put words into some.
Pigeonhole.
I don't want to. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to kind of. But I just it does. And I want to say that in the Japanese branch of Reiki, that from the West that came back into Japan, their focus is enlightenment. And they do see it as a spiritual practice, even though it's not a religion and you don't have to believe in anything. But they do see, but it is seen at, you know, it's a meditation practice, it's a sharing practice, it's a group practice. You know, you get together and as a group, you practice Reiki together. You do it for yourself, and you do it to find not just ease in your physical body, but also your emotional body, your spiritual body. You do it to help people find ease, like in the subway car, you see a kid that's crying or something, you send them Reiki to help them, to give them ease. So I think that's spiritual.
It even works. I saw a very threatening person in the subway, and what I did is I pulled all of his energy into me, and I felt his rage and I felt his anger, and then I sort of transformed it and shot it back to him, and he calmed right down.
That's pretty
So
cool.
I don't know if that's
That's not Reiki. That's not actually Reiki. It's a different
no,
energy,
but
it's amazing. Yeah.
it's similar. You're actually feeling compassion, and I think that that question was really a brilliant question, because I think also what happens is when you go through an attunement, when you go through any kind of elevation in any spiritual tradition, you now have something that you didn't have. And there's not only answers to questions that you might have had, there's really good training. If you find a really good trainer, there's a lot of bogus people out there, you know that as well as I do. But if you get a legit person, what you're walking away with is an elevation. You now have the capacity to perform something helpful for everyone, including
Yeah.
yourself, that you didn't have prior. And yeah, that's going to make you feel quoting, overwhelmingly positive and peaceful. Okay, we have another question.
Well, I just want to thank Anthony for giving the right, I mean, not just the right answer, but that is the most direct answer. And he had the words for it. And I really am grateful, because if I could have had those words and said that and been that direct, I would have.
Well, you did, because I kind of extrapolated from what you were saying, but also thinking about it, because I've been initiated into a million different things, and everyone was a surprise later. It's like, wow, I never had that vibe before. Another question we have, how easy or difficult is it to do Reiki on yourself versus on someone else? Is it easier on you or easier on somebody else?
It's it's good either way. I mean, when you start practicing on yourself after your first attunement, you you know, your first level, you practice for 21 days every day on yourself as part of your training, and you practice giving to other people. And I think that I think it's such a beautiful experience to share Reiki with other people and to give with other people. But there's also something very nice about just doing something good for yourself. And when you bring Reiki to yourself and you give yourself that peace and relaxation and that expansiveness, you give yourself permission to just be big, to just have big energy and to just be expansive. Also, you have to remember that every time you channel Reiki for somebody else, you're actually channeling Reiki. It's coming through you. So you are receiving as
Absorbing
well.
some of it. Yeah.
You're always
You
receiving
know,
as you give.
in Reiki, any of these arts that we have downstairs at Astro West are all about service. And a person who's drawn to a service profession, what are you doing? You are serving. We seek that knowledge so that we may serve. And many of us in this business serve everybody but us, but ourselves. So doing Reiki on yourself is a way of self-care. It's like rejuvenating yourself, replenishing your own energy, giving yourself some of that love and healing that you so love to give to other people. And
Yeah, it's very
I,
important actually to do that and to make sure that you don't get depleted and to make sure that you take time out to give yourself
yeah,
Reiki and to do swaps, and to
yeah,
receive from someone
mhm,
else. Like those are also really
yeah.
important for the same reason.
So I guess it's just as easy, or just as, it doesn't sound difficult if you're into it. But it's just as
Yeah, if you're
easy to
into
do
it,
on
it's
someone else
fun.
as it is on yourself. Yeah.
And it's
Sounds like
not
somebody. Mhm,
giving is very enjoyable too. Like
mhm,
because as you gain mastery,
mhm.
it's just becomes more and more interesting and more fun, and you just find more and more levels to it, and it's a great thing to kind of get entangled with, so to speak. Yeah.
Sounds like the person who posted that question might want to consider getting an attunement. I mean, it could be a spectacular experience and elevation, and then just a way to continue giving. Because, when you look at everything that's going on in the world right now, we need some of this. We need to like Reiki the entire planet at large if we can. And I'll bet you that we could probably set up a network, a global network, because I have a lot of clients from a lot of different countries. And all we have to do is get them to focus on the same
That would be
thing.
great. Like we could do a whole Zoom thing and just do
That would
a
be
like
awesome.
massive Reiki meditation together. That would be really, really fun. And the planet definitely needs it. And it's not like
Oof.
people haven't been doing it. It's a Reiki thing to get together and to meditate together over Zoom. And you can
Yeah.
give yourself Reiki while you're doing it, or you can give it to someone else. So there's so
Mhm.
many different ways you could approach that process. Or you can
You
just
might
sit.
want to think about hosting. You might want to think about hosting that sometime soon.
Oh my God, I'd love to, especially with everything that's going on. Like,
Yeah.
could do like Reiki for, I mean, I
Mhm.
mean, you could just pick your global location and send Reiki, to this location or that location, or however you wanted to approach it.
Okay. Here's another question that I could have probably wrote, because you know how I get. It says, "Is it appropriate?" I'm sorry. My throat's a little choked up from screaming at the Jets game. And I'm laughing because I could have written this question myself. Is it appropriate to give Reiki to negative people even if you don't particularly like them? They
Absolutely.
might not be they might not be receptive, but perhaps as a distance healing. I think the person who wrote that,
They
I would be afraid that I would slap them if I was in the same room, because I will throw hands. I kind of roll that way, but I love this question. Please let me shut my mic off so you can answer.
You can't really give Reiki to somebody without their permission, but there is their subconscious permission. So you can always send somebody Reiki, and if they want to accept it, they'll accept it. It's that simple. And I think the best way to approach Reiki is without negativity and judgment. So even though you don't like this person, and in your regular life, you're free to be negative and to be judgmental and to say, and not to be negative, but like they're noticing like you're not liking their energy.
Yeah.
I don't like your energy. That's totally fair. Nobody's asking anybody to not be themselves at all times of the day. And that part of being yourself is knowing when you like being around somebody or not. But when you send Reiki, you take all of that off the table because it doesn't matter. It's like
You're a
that Buddhist
professional.
It's that Buddhist meditation
Mhm.
where you know, where you give first you're meditating on behalf of someone you love, and then you're meditating on behalf of somebody that you just know in passing or just see and you don't even know their name,
Mhm.
and then a total stranger that you've never met, and then there's that difficult person that you don't like, and you send them meditation. And it's kind of like that, like it's really along those same
Mhm.
levels, like, you know, without,
Mhm.
so when you've gotten to that, you can think about that person or that situation as an intention before, and
Mhm.
just send, and then you send Reiki on their behalf, and you don't have to dwell on any of the details of it while you're sending Reiki. And you know, do it for a while, see what happens. Who knows, maybe they'll soften up. Or I
Uh,
also think that like sending Reiki softens you up. And so
mhm.
sometimes when we're in disagreement with somebody, and that it can be an energetic disagreement, like I just resist you, I don't like your vibe, you know, I have a wall, I resist. um Sometimes just that, and that sometimes you need to have that wall, and other times you soften, they soften, you soften, they soften, and
And it just
you
it's reflective. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
I have a
process.
little trick. I have a little trick that I use for something like that. Not so much with live people. I often sit as a medium. And sometimes you're going to encounter the spirit of somebody who passed who's like a total asshole. I mean, everybody doesn't turn into like these wonderful sentient creatures when they pass. If you're a jerk when you're alive, you're going to be a dead jerk sometimes. And but they also feed off your energy. You know, they feed off any strong emotion. I hope Melissa was crying laughing because I just
Yeah,
saw her
it's like the
emoji there.
vibe, and when you
But
get the
so
energy.
what I do, and then they start scaring you and they start feeding off of that. And then I just think to myself, wait a minute. It's like, you're dead, right? You're dead and you're still an ass. And you must have had like one messed up life. And then I start feeling compassion. How miserable was your early life that you turned it? You brought this crap with you past the grave, man. It's like, and then all of a sudden, oh, you poor thing. And then their energy starts to change a little bit. And I've actually done that with people that, you know, I'm a skeptic and you're going to tell me things and you're going to fail. It's like, all right, fine. Here comes your session. And then I just have to think, what happened to them that they're coming to a professional with that kind of chip on their shoulder? I mean, you do it to me in a bar, it's gonna be another story. There's not gonna be any compassion. Okay, there's gonna be a brawl. But when you're working and you have to honor the work that you do and respect the energy that it takes to do it, you do find compassion. So even if it is a person that you don't like in your real life, or in your non-professional life, there is a way to work with them very successfully for their betterment and also yours.
Well, that's a huge part of Reiki, is that you're always
Mhm.
doing it for their betterment, and you're always kind
Mhm.
of holding them in the highest regard and esteem.
Mhm.
So that helps, because if somebody's actually coming to you for a session, you might not like this person at all in regular life, but they
Mhm.
come in for a session and it's a different story. They're coming into your space to
Mhm.
receive what you have to give them. There is also like the people, like the person at work who's difficult to deal with, or like energy
Mhm.
vampires or whatever, and people who do
Mhm.
cause problems just so they can
Mhm.
suck the life out of you. I mean, that's a whole different thing. You could send them Reiki, and then also, like, you know, your boundaries
Mhm.
about giving your energy, because you have your personal energy and you're channeling Reiki, so you become boundless, you know. But they're also like, you got to know where, how you're porous, and how to contain yourself, how to contain your energy, and just to make sure, if it's channeling Reiki on their behalf for them, you'll never get harmed. If they're somehow draining your personal energy, that's, you know, you really have to have boundaries for that. But it's
Yeah, it's
always
gonna just punch their
to,
lights out. Yeah.
to send someone like that energy is great. It's a great thing. It's like really a good service for them and for the world.
Because they're
And
gonna feel it. They're gonna definitely feel it afterwards. They're gonna be changed and they're gonna be nicer. And you're probably gonna be annoyed about that because sometimes it's a lot of fun to know that somebody's an annoyance. But I mean, I'm saying that in jest,
no,
and
but they're
that's
good
also the
teachers too. Like, you know, they're always there for a reason. They do always direct,
yeah.
they direct your attention to something, and it's not bad.
It's a challenge. We have another question. It says, bouncing off that last question, when you connect to a client, does it feel different when you do Reiki on a negative person or someone with major personal issues? Does that negative energy cause walls for you to find ways to work through so you can actually be a benefit to them?
When I'm in a session with someone like that who's like really, really draining, or you sit down in the set, they come into the room and you kind of feel like a resistance almost immediately because there's just like a lot going on for them. But I get really energized by that because I'm just doing it on their behalf, and I'm just thinking about them and not about myself at all at that moment. So my concerns for myself aren't really present. And yeah,
So it's not more difficult working on a person that's has maybe not negative toward you, but just like there are some people who just like run on negative.
there are people that I have
So it's a
personal things going
challenge.
on with that I have a hard time, that I become resistant to give, and even if I don't know why, like there's someone who I loved very dearly, but I really didn't want to give them Reiki, and I don't know why. There's that kind of thing can happen, I suppose. But like a client who comes into the room, I always put them there. It's a contained space. They come in for a
Yeah.
session, you give them a treatment, and then
Mhm.
you close it. You close the session and you're done. And if there's a lot going on for them, it's even more interesting because it's a more challenging and exciting environment for you as a
That's
practitioner.
the magic word. Is the magic word because I was thinking that because I've had situations like that, and I know when I'm working when I'm meeting with somebody on a professional basis, if they're coming to me for a professional service and they're really negative coming in, like that person I just mentioned, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it right because I know I can do this well. And it's more of a challenge and it gets all my skills up and I end up becoming really energized. And damn it, you're not leaving here until you're better. And when you really have that much compassion for the person that you're working with, you're so messed up. Like I explained with the ghosts, it's like, oh my God, you must have had such a messed up life. Almost said that word. Uh, you poor thing, you died miserable, and then it just makes me feel a little sorry. So then I have to do my healing, on two different planes and then I feel better, but it is a challenge and it actually energizes you because you have to pull out all the stops and work with everything you've ever learned and really apply yourself. Because we're
But to
doing
be
this what? To heal. We're doing it to heal people.
and
Nobody gets out unhealed. Yeah.
no, when things are more complex, it's more fun. So, and when you start to get into all the little different tangibilities of the process, all the different tools, all the different variations and variables, and it just becomes more elaborate and more interesting, and also more simple. And that's what mastery is, right? It's about really engaging with things and really like, and when you're really present in that way, it's yeah, a lot of these things you don't even think about at the time. You just kind of just get into it, and your focus and your concentration come alive, and it's really a joy. And it's kind of a joy in another way too, is that you're not really thinking about those kind of things, and it's a relief to not have to think about or worry about those things. It's like
Because
that.
you have to surrender. As a practitioner, you have to surrender the Reiki energy too in order to administer it properly.
Well, yeah, but it's like, did you ever hear that story about that woman who lost all of her capacity to speak? Like she could think, but she couldn't think in words. She lost all language, all verbal capacity for a year of her life. She had a stroke and she lost it.
Oh,
And
wow.
she actually regained her capacity to speak, her verbal capacity to write and to think in words and to speak. And she said that year without words, she had no words. It wasn't like she just couldn't talk and she had words in her head. She literally had no words. And she said it was the happiest of her life. Because you have no words, you're just present, you're just
Yeah.
there. And that is part of Reiki as well, is learning to
You
be
just
very
get to
present,
be.
to
Yeah,
be,
just
yeah,
be.
you just get to be, and it's a joy. And
Wow. That sounds like heaven. Okay. Does anyone else have any more questions for Abby? Either put them in chat or use the raise hand function because we're going to have to wrap soon. So, okay. Okay, here we go. We have another one. Um, In advanced practice, do you have a consistent open channel or do you ever feel drained? I guess what I'm asking is, does your stamina for Reiki ever decrease? And if so, under what circumstances? Good question.
I think that you kind of like might ebb and flow with your desire to be in
Mhm,
Reiki. You know, there's probably
mhm,
times where you feel resistant, like I just don't want to engage. I don't want to be open. I don't want to have compassion. It happens, you know. You
yeah,
can get burnt out for many different reasons, and that can influence your desire to engage with
mhm,
Reiki. You know, Reiki never
yeah.
disappears. It's always there for you. But there's times where you might not be there for Reiki, you know, you might
And that's
want.
actually very healthy because it creates balance. I mean, balance isn't always being there. I know a lot of people that I've trained in different traditions want to be on all the time. And it's like, you have to balance your spiritual life with your corporeal life. I'm gonna pin myself just for a second because there's like a hand gesture, don't get worried. That really makes sense. It's like you're here, you go all the way to this degree with spirituality, then you got to go all the way to that degree with your corporeal life. And then you got to go back and it goes a little further, and then it goes a little further, and ultimately it starts going like this. So there are ebbs and flows, and it's very necessary to keep yourself balanced because if you're not balanced, what are you going to be? Imbalanced. And what is your service going to be? Out of balance. So when I get to that place where I'm getting that burnout, this is what's so great about having a practice. I'm booked up for the next week and a half. And I don't want to tell them I can't do it or it wouldn't be good for you. That's just not, these there are people coming to you as a professional for help. But you also have to be aware of when you need a timeout in order to kind of charge up your own batteries in order to get back and do the thing that you love so well.
And sometimes you do have to reconnect to it. Like, oh, I really do want to be doing this. You know, you always have
Mhm,
to, that's how life is, you know.
mhm,
It's like a marriage, you know. You have to keep finding each
yeah,
other and making it new and the renewal. But it's
yeah,
like it's a living process, it's a living thing,
mhm,
just like
yeah.
any other thing.
Like on a really busy day, I mean, my service is mostly conversational, and sometimes at the end of a busy day, I'm so sick of the sound of my voice that I can't stand. There's no way. So I'll go out. I'll go out to be among people, and then if someone starts talking to me, I'll just look at them and say, "I'm terribly sorry. I don't speak a single word of English." And they say, "Okay, sorry." They don't even realize what I'm saying, but it's like you just need to be. You need to be there. You don't need to be communicating. I mean, that's what my work is. It's verbal communication. And Reiki is the same. You're using your body and your mind to direct energy to provide something healing. And you can burn out sometimes. And the best thing to do is to take a break. Same thing with writing. If you get a writer's block, go somewhere for a day or two. Change your scenery, put yourself in a different environment, different stimulus. And then you're going to come back. You can't wait to do it, just like raring to go at it.
Yeah,
So,
it's all
do
about
we have?
boundaries. It's all about
Mhm,
just having boundaries and
mhm.
recognizing when you need to fortify yourself, you know, and
Yep.
when you need to, like, you know, when you're opening yourself up. It's like that door, that gate.
Mhm,
You open it, you
yeah,
close it when it's right for, you know, you're in charge.
mhm.
It's your
Yeah.
life.
And let's not forget the spark of energy that we are is also trapped in this human body. So you have physical things that can wear you down. You have mental and emotional things that can wear us down. We have to honor that part of us.
And
Just
the things that are
because,
going around with us too, like our family,
yeah,
our friends, you know, somebody has,
yeah,
you might be giving everything to one person because they really need it. And that person's really important to you. And you just don't have it to give just to everybody all the time. So, and that's totally
yeah.
valid.
So I hope that answered that question. Are there any more before we wrap? You can raise your hand in Zoom or you can write something in chat. Okay. Oh, I will put I will put a Reiki symbol in my food when I am cooking. That's cool. It's
Yeah,
almost like puja, you consume the energy.
that's a real thing. That's a real Reiki thing. And it's a great thing to do. And your water, it's good. You know, it's a great thing to do on all your beverages because water is such a good
Really?
transmitter. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
beer too? Or
Yeah, absolutely. All
okay,
your
vodka,
any
all that stuff.
Yes, anything with anything, because water, you know how water is a transmitter of sound and vibration, or they did that whole thing where they wrote notes and put the notes next to the water, and the actual water crystal formation was different depending on the word.
Oh, wow.
And the beautiful words, the loving words, the open words created these very beautiful crystals. And the harsh words, the mean words, the negative words created these crystals that were, I mean, they were punk rock, but they were they were punk rock.
Little rad crystals.
The ones were like these glorious, symmetrical, peaceful, balanced things. So, you can draw the thing, but, so when you do Reiki is always beautiful and peaceful. And so you will then be putting that beautiful crystal, that not, crystal, but, the water into your water.
Into your body.
Yeah, the crystal. It is a crystal. It's called a crystal. So I was trying to think of a different word, molecule, but it's not a molecule. It's made up of the crystals, I think. That snowflake pattern. I don't know the technical science details of water.
We're not, Reiki, so that's all that really matters. Okay, do we have any more questions before we wrap? I love this. Okay, I guess that's going to be it. Do you have any parting words?
No, I just want to say thank you. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and it's been a lot of fun. So I hope to, some people in the group I know, and I'm happy to see you here, and other people I hope to meet in person.
Excellent. So thank you for that. Oh, the person who puts Reiki in her food says, thank you, fantastic. I think so too. I think you're terrific. And I can't wait for people to come and meet you. So Abbey, thank you so much for your time and your patience and your laughter. One of the things I love about you is that we have so much fun whenever we talk. It always turns into like a stand-up act or something. Melissa, thank you. Melissa said, thank you both. This was awesome. It is cool. So thank you again. I'm going to end recording.